Hey, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, you want to learn how to fly. Maybe you've had this dream ever since you were a kid, or you just took a discovery flight and you cannot get the thought of the sky out of your head. I get it, that was me. But then maybe you Googled, how much does it cost to get your PPL in Canada? And had a wide range of answers and maybe a little bit of a panic attack. So today, I'm breaking it all down. The real costs, the hidden fees, everything, so that you got this financially. My name is Karen, and I am a student pilot working towards her private pilot's license in Canada. I started this channel because when I began looking into flying, I realized that there was not enough content online. So that's what I'm going to do here, no gatekeeping. Okay, let's just rip this bandage off. How much does it actually cost to get your PPL in Canada? The answer lies somewhere between $15,000 to $25,000. But honestly, the average cost to get your private pilot's license in Canada is approximately $20,000. If you look online, many schools will put a realistic range between what students will usually spend, which will often go about $18,000 to $25,000. Now, why is there such a big range? That's because the total cost actually relies on you. That is, how prepared you show up to lessons, how much studying you do before each flight, how consistent you fly, and what flight school you decide to go to. Now let's break down where that money actually goes. Flight hours. Now this is probably the biggest one. This is where the bulk of your money is going to be spent. Transport Canada will set a minimum amount of flight hours before you can even decide to take your written and your flight test. I feel like a more realistic number to go between is about 60 to 70 hours. But after I've talked to many student pilots personally, I realized that they're all around the range of 80 to even 90 hours, and they still haven't taken their flight test yet. So, how do we get billed, and what is the typical price range for an hour of flying? So I actually made my flight instructor print off my receipt just for this video, and I'm going to read out to you what it costs. So for instructors get paid by the hour, and then dual flight training, which is when you go up into the air with your instructor, that is also per hour. And I flew 1.1 the other day, and the price for 1 hour is $400, and 1.1 rounded me to $440. Pre-flight briefing is also per hour, but I only used up 0.2, and per hour that's $90. I only paid $18 for that. And then there's the post-flight briefing, which is also per hour, and I only used up 0.10. And usually the post-flight briefing per hour, the cost is $90, but since I only used up 10 minutes, it's a little bit more than 10 minutes, so 0.10, I only paid $9. So the total comes to, after tax, $490.35, which I can show you guys. And that is honestly the real price of flight training in Canada. But of course, I know that all flight schools range from prices, so I did check out another flight school just for you guys. And I asked them how much it costs per hour and the ground. It's $335 dual hour and $185 ground hour. And that is for your PPL. Here, I'll show you guys. This is what they wrote for me. So typically speaking, this flight school is actually cheaper than mine. I also received this brochure from the flight school that I visited. I can show you, if it's gonna focus. So this is kind of the rough draft of how much it might cost. And yes, the hours do add up really fast, but this is where most of your money and your cost will go. So you do have control over this factor. And now before you even touch the controls of a plane, you are going to need to begin ground school. That's where you are going to learn weather, navigation, air law, and general knowledge. The cost for a ground school really depends on which one you decide to take. Personally, I used pilottraining.ca, which I believe was $310 for 270 days. There are honestly some great online resources that you can use that are much cheaper than the in-person ground schools. Costs can range from a few $100s for self-study materials and the tools that you're going to use, just like your E6B and your CX3, your plotters, your VNCs. Personally, my CX3 was $187, and that was just straight off of Amazon. So the prices do add up, but not as quick as flight training. After your ground school, you are going to take the Transport Canada written exam. The fee for this exam can be found in the flight school that you're going to take this exam at. This will usually range from like $100 to $300. Honestly, it's the prep time before your exam that's going to cost you and not the exam itself. Before you can fly solo, you are going to need to get a medical certificate, which is done by a Transport Canada Aviation Medical Examiner, and the costs will typically range from about $100 to $200. Now the big day, your flight test will typically range from $500 to $800 depending on what flight school you decide to take it at. This is your practical exam with a Transport Canada examiner. Okay, now here's the part that everyone actually wants to hear. How not to go broke doing flight training. I feel like the biggest factor is to fly consistently. The more often that you fly and keep your skills sharp, the less time you're going to spend up in the air relearning what you already forgot. So if you fly once a month, you're going to spend a lot of time just relearning what your instructor taught you last month. But if you try to stay consistent and fly a couple times a month or even once a week, that should maintain your skills. And show up prepared to your flight lesson. Review what you learned last lesson, and if you know what your instructor is teaching you this time, go over that too. Brief yourself on the maneuvers that you're going to be practicing in this lesson. Every minute of ground time that you save is money back in your pocket. Use simulators. Many flight schools offer flight sims, and you can use that to practice instrument time or even just procedure at a fraction of the cost. Prices can range a lot from each flight school, so make sure that you actually look around and compare your prices and what they offer before you make a final choice. Additionally, joining a local flight club may give you better opportunities and access to cheaper aircraft rentals. Something I feel like not enough people are mentioning is that scholarships actually exist for flight training. Do your research and go onto Google and search up aviation scholarships. Look, I am not going to sugarcoat this. Getting your PPL in Canada is going to cost somewhere about $15,000 to $25,000. And hundreds of hours of studying, bad flight lessons, and early mornings. And yet, I still feel like it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. But here's how I think of it. A private pilot's license isn't just a hobby certificate. It's a skill that honestly lasts a lifetime. It opens doors to careers, to relationships, to community, to adventure, and to a group of people who see the world completely differently. And the cost? Spread it over a couple of years or months. And the flying, the memories, the experience, you'll get it all back. And honestly, the experience is priceless. And here's the thing that nobody really tells you. The process of learning how to fly actually does change you. It's the discipline of learning weather when it's really hard, and then one day realizing that you understand the clouds in the sky. It's the mental toughness that you have to build after a hard flight lesson that carries out into your life. And then there's a moment where everything pays off. So if you're on the fence of starting your flight training, let this be your sign. Start, and you won't regret it. Drop a comment down below if you're interested in getting started with your flight training or if you're already a student pilot. And subscribe if you want to follow along with my flight journey. Thanks for watching and see you guys next week.